The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council Chamber stretched toward the artificial sky of Station Prime, their surfaces reflecting the nervous energy that rippled through the assembled delegates. Ambassador Zethkar of the Villani Federation adjusted his ceremonial robes with trembling appendages, his normally composed demeanor cracking under the weight of the intelligence reports scattered across his desk. The emergency session had been called at the unprecedented hour of Uro 300 Standard Galactic Time, rousing representatives from across known space from their sleep cycles. The reason was simple, terrifying, and until recently, theoretical. Humanity had finally revealed the true nature of their military capabilities. "Honored delegates," Zethkar's voice carried across the vast chamber. His words translated simultaneously into 400 different languages and communication methods. "We gather in crisis. The species we have observed from afar, the ones we believed to be peaceful traders and explorers, have shown us something that challenges everything we thought we knew about warfare." A holographic display materialized above the assembly, showing grainy sensor readings from the outer rim. The images were barely comprehensible to most species present, but the energy signatures were unmistakable. Ships, if they could be called that, moving through space in patterns that defied conventional tactical doctrine. "The humans call it their Death World Fleet," Zethkar continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Initial reports suggested it was merely a defensive formation. Our analysts believed their unusual ship designs were compensating for inferior technology. We were catastrophically wrong." In the viewing gallery reserved for military observers, General Krixtos of the Hegemony Defense Force leaned forward, his 6 eyes focusing intently on the display. For cycles, the Hegemony had considered humanity a minor nuisance, a species too young and too isolated to pose any real threat. They had emerged from a single world, a planet so hostile that most civilized species would have considered it uninhabitable. The gravity alone should have crushed their development, yet somehow these creatures had not only survived, but thrived. The first human ship had appeared at a trade station 17 years ago. The crew had seemed friendly enough, eager to learn about galactic civilization and trade their unusual organic compounds and rare elements. They spoke of their homeworld with an almost casual indifference that had puzzled xenopsychologists. Earth, they called it, describing weather patterns that would terrify most species and predators that could hunt with efficiency that bordered on the supernatural. "The data we're about to show you was gathered during what humans termed a routine patrol exercise," Zethkar announced, his hands shaking as he manipulated the holographic controls. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected these formations 3 days ago in the Kepler sector. We initially classified them as civilian vessels conducting mineral surveys." The display changed, showing a different angle of the same formations. What had appeared to be random movement now revealed itself as something far more disturbing. The human ships moved like living things, flowing through space in coordinated patterns that spoke of predatory intelligence. Where other species built ships in clean lines and geometric perfection, human vessels seemed organic, asymmetrical, designed by minds that understood violence in ways that chilled the assembled delegates to their core. Ambassador Thys of the Aquatic Collective raised a tentacle, her bioluminescent communication patches flickering with concern. "Honored Speaker, surely these are simply escort formations? Many species maintain protective fleets around their trade routes." The silence that followed her question was answer enough. Zethkar's expression grew even more grave as he activated another sequence of sensor data. "That is what we initially believed, Ambassador Thys. However, our analysis teams have identified something unprecedented. These ships do not move like escorts, they move like hunters." The new display showed trajectory analyses, velocity calculations, and formation assessments that had taken the galaxy's best military minds 3 days to decipher. The human ships didn't follow the predictable patterns of defensive formations or trade protection. Instead, they flowed through space like a pack of predators surrounding prey, using gravitational shadows and asteroid fields, not for concealment, but for tactical advantage. Note the spacing between vessels. General Crixtos spoke from the gallery, his military training overriding diplomatic protocol. No civilization schools their defensive fleets to maintain those intervals. Those are attack formations, designed for maximum coverage and minimum escape routes for whatever they're hunting. A murmur of unease rippled through the chamber. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for over 2,000 years through careful diplomacy and the understanding that warfare had become too costly and destructive for civilized species. The very concept of a military formation designed specifically to hunt other sentient beings was anathema to everything their society represented. "There is more," Zethkar continued, his voice barely steady. "Our xenobiological teams have completed their analysis of human physiology and psychology. The initial reports were incomplete." The holographic display shifted again, this time showing comparative biological data. Most delegates had seen basic human anatomy before, but the new analysis highlighted features that previous studies had overlooked or misinterpreted. Humans are not merely from a hostile environment. They are the apex predator of their hostile environment. Their binocular vision evolved specifically for tracking prey over long distances. Their persistence hunting capabilities allow them to chase targets for days without rest. Their cognitive patterns show neural pathways specifically adapted for tactical thinking and strategic planning under stress. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every species in the Council had evolved from prey animals or omnivores. Even the most militaristic among them, like the hegemony, had developed warfare as a necessary evil, a tool for defending territory or resources. The concept of a species that had evolved as persistence hunters, creatures designed by nature itself to track and kill, was beyond their comprehension. "But surely," interjected Ambassador Felnix of the Silicon Confederacy, his mechanical voice tinged with digital uncertainty, "their peaceful conduct over the past 17 years proves they have evolved beyond such primitive instincts?" Zethkar's response came in the form of another holographic display, this one showing trade records and diplomatic interactions. To most observers, it appeared to be standard commercial and cultural exchange data, but highlighted in red were patterns that told a different story. Our analysts have identified that every trade route established by humans provides them with detailed information about our infrastructure, our military capabilities, and our resource distribution. Every diplomatic mission has gathered intelligence about our government structures, our decision-making processes, and our defensive capabilities. Every cultural exchange has taught them about our psychological weaknesses and social pressure points. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. For 17 years, humanity hadn't been learning to join galactic civilization. They had been conducting the most comprehensive intelligence operation in recorded history, mapping every aspect of potential opposition with the patience and thoroughness of natural-born predators. "The question before us now," Zethkar concluded, "is not whether humanity poses a threat. The question is whether they have already decided to act on the intelligence they have gathered, and whether we have any hope of survival if they have." The artificial gravity in the chamber seemed to intensify as delegates across the galaxy realized they might be witnessing the end of their peaceful age. In the viewing gallery, General Crixtos was already calculating response times and defensive positions, his military mind automatically shifting into crisis mode. Outside the station's transparent aluminum viewing ports, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the fear that now gripped the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Somewhere among those distant points of light, human ships moved through the void with the purposeful grace of predators who had finally decided their prey had grown fat and complacent enough to harvest. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Persistence. Her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the tactical displays update in real time. The flagship of humanity's first expeditionary fleet was a testament to human engineering philosophy: function over form, efficiency over elegance, and lethality over everything else. "Ma'am, we're receiving priority transmissions from the outer sensor nets," reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. Intelligence suggests they're discussing our fleet movements." Chen nodded without turning from the display. She had expected this moment for years, ever since the first human traders had returned from Council space with detailed reports of their hosts' capabilities and vulnerabilities. The galaxy's established powers had grown soft during their long peace, their military thinking ossified into defensive doctrines that assumed warfare would always follow predictable patterns. "Signal the fleet," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had clawed her way up through the ranks during humanity's expansion wars. "Begin Phase 2 dispersal. I want our task groups in position around every major system within 72 hours. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements betraying none of the excitement that Chen knew they all felt. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first learned they were not alone in the universe. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every cultural exchange had been gathering intelligence for this operation. On the main display, a three-dimensional map of local space showed the positions of human ships throughout the sector. To most observers, it would appear to be a random distribution of exploration and trade vessels. But Chen saw the truth: a carefully orchestrated net of predators, positioned to strike at the heart of galactic civilization with surgical precision. "Fleet status report," she commanded. "All task groups report ready status," replied Commander Martinez from the tactical station. "The Retribution Group is in position near the Villani homeworld. The Vengeance Group has established overwatch of the Hegemony core systems. Hunter groups are deployed along all major trade routes and communication nexuses." Chen allowed herself a thin smile. The names of their ships would probably terrify the council delegates. But humans had learned long ago that sometimes fear was the most effective diplomatic tool. The galaxy had enjoyed peace not because its inhabitants were naturally peaceful, but because they had never faced a true predator. "Ma'am," interrupted Communications Officer Park, "we're intercepting council transmissions. They're discussing our Death World Fleet designation." "Let them talk," Chen replied. "Fear makes people careless. The more they panic, the more likely they are to make mistakes we can exploit." The truth was that humanity's apparent aggression was carefully calculated. Every move had been planned to maximize psychological impact while maintaining plausible deniability. The humans could claim quite truthfully that they were simply conducting routine patrols and exercises. The fact that these activities happened to occur simultaneously near every major galactic power center was just a coincidence. "Admiral," called out Hayes, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Priority Alpha." Chen moved to her command chair and activated the secure communication channel. The face that appeared on her personal display belonged to Fleet Admiral Morrison, the architect of humanity's expansion into the galaxy and the man who had conceived the current operation. "Sarah," Morrison's voice carried across the light years with crystalline clarity, "the President has given final authorization for Operation Nightfall. The Council's emergency session has confirmed our intelligence estimates. They're more vulnerable than we hoped." "Understood, sir." "How long until the diplomatic phase?" "Ambassador Reynolds is already en route to Station Prime. She'll be arriving just as the Council realizes the true scope of our deployment. The timing should be perfect." Chen nodded. The diplomatic phase was crucial to their strategy. Humanity didn't want to conquer the galaxy through force alone. That would be inefficient and costly. Instead, They planned to demonstrate their overwhelming superiority and then offer terms that would essentially place human interests above all others while maintaining the illusion of galactic autonomy. "What's the latest intelligence from our embedded observers?" Chen asked. Morrison's expression grew grim. "The hegemony is mobilizing their defense fleets, but they're following their standard doctrines, concentrated formations, defensive positioning around high-value targets. They have no idea how to counter our dispersed hunter groups." And the Council itself? Paralyzed by indecision. They're still trying to convince themselves that this is some kind of misunderstanding. Ambassador Zethkar is pushing for a diplomatic solution, but General Krixtos is advocating for immediate military action. Chen processed this information quickly. The Galactic Council's inability to reach consensus was one of their greatest weaknesses. Humanity had studied their political structure extensively and knew that their requirement for unanimous decisions would cripple their response time. "Sir, what's our timeline for revealing the escort carriers?" Morrison's smile was predatory. "That's the beautiful part, Sarah. We don't need to reveal them. The Council's sensors are too primitive to detect our stealth vessels. As far as they know, each of your ships is operating alone. They have no idea that every single vessel in our fleet is accompanied by 3 unmarked escort carriers loaded with fighters. The escort carriers were humanity's secret weapon, vessels designed to be invisible to galactic sensor technology. While Council ships relied on energy-based detection systems, human stealth technology used principles that the galaxy's established powers had never encountered. Each escort carrier held 50 fighters, giving humanity an effective force 3 times larger than what their enemies could observe. "Admiral," interrupted Commander Martinez, "we're detecting massive movement in the Kepler sector. Looks like a hegemony battle group moving to intercept our position." Chen moved back to the main tactical display. The approaching hegemony ships were impressive by galactic standards, massive dreadnoughts supported by cruiser escorts, their energy signatures blazing like small stars as their defensive systems powered up. "Analysis?" Chen asked. "Standard hegemony formation," Martinez replied. 12 capital ships, 36 escorts. They're configured for line-of-battle engagement, probably expecting us to meet them head-on in traditional fashion. Chen laughed, a sound that carried no humor. "Traditional fashion. Show them our response." The orders went out across the fleet instantly. Instead of forming battle lines or massing for a direct assault, the human ships simply dispersed. Each vessel activated its stealth systems and vanished from hegemony sensors, leaving the enemy battle group facing empty space. But they weren't gone. They had become ghosts in the void, invisible predators circling their prey. The escort carriers moved into position, their fighter bays opening like the mouths of hungry beasts. In minutes, the hegemony battle group would find themselves surrounded by an enemy they couldn't see, facing weapons they couldn't understand, fighting a battle they couldn't win. "Ma'am," Park reported, "the hegemony commander is broadcasting on all frequencies. He's demanding we reveal ourselves and engage honorably." "Honorably," Chen repeated, tasting the word like something bitter. "Tell me, Commander Martinez, what's honorable about leading 12,000 sentient beings to their deaths because you refuse to acknowledge that you're outmatched?" "Nothing, ma'am." "Exactly. Signal the fleet. Begin demonstration protocols. I want the hegemony to understand what they're dealing with, but I want survivors to carry the message back to their leaders." As Chen's orders rippled through the human fleet, the hegemony battle group died in silence. General Krixtos watched the tactical feeds from the Council's observation post, his 6 eyes unable to process what the sensors were showing him. The 12 dreadnoughts of Battle Group Tertius had simply ceased to exist, their massive hulks disabled and drifting in the void without their crews ever seeing the enemy that had destroyed them. "How?" he whispered, his voice barely registering in the command center's noise dampeners. "How is this possible?" The attack had lasted 17 minutes. For the first 12 minutes, the hegemony ships had broadcast increasingly frantic requests for the human fleet to reveal itself and engage in proper battle. Their sensors showed empty space, their tactical computers found no targets to lock onto, and their commanders grew more frustrated by the second. Then the ghosts had struck. Weapons fire had erupted from seemingly empty space, precisely targeted energy beams that sliced through shields and armor with surgical precision. Not to destroy, but to disable. Every shot had been calculated to cripple rather than kill, leaving the mighty dreadnoughts helpless, but intact. "Sir," reported his aide, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's directed specifically to you." The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her features were sharp and predatory, her eyes holding an intelligence that made Crixtos's skin crawl. "General Crixtos," the human said, her voice carrying across space with perfect clarity, "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force. I believe we need to have a conversation." You attacked our ships," Crixtos stammered, his military composure cracking under the weight of witnessing the impossible. "I demonstrated our capabilities," Chen corrected. "Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are alive, not dead. This was a teaching moment, General. I hope you learned something useful." Behind Chen, Crixtos could see other humans moving around what appeared to be a starship bridge. They worked with an efficiency that spoke of long experience and absolute confidence. These weren't explorers or traders. These were warriors, born and bred for conflict. "What do you want?" Crixtos managed to ask. "To talk," Chen replied simply. "Specifically, I want to talk to your council before they make any more mistakes that might force us to demonstrate our capabilities on a larger scale." The transmission ended, leaving Crixtos staring at empty air. Around him, his staff continued monitoring the situation, their voices creating a background buzz of confused reports and frantic communications. "Sir," his aide whispered, "what are your orders?" Crixtos looked at the tactical display showing the disabled hegemony ships floating helplessly in space. Rescue vessels were already en route, but the message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed those ships and everyone aboard them. Instead, they had chosen mercy, which somehow made them more terrifying than if they had simply opened fire with intent to kill. "Get me a direct line to the council chambers," he ordered. "Emergency priority. And make sure Ambassador Zethkar knows that we need to listen very carefully to whatever the humans are about to tell us." 3 hours later, the council chambers fell silent as Ambassador Rebecca Reynolds entered through the diplomatic airlock. She was smaller than most delegates had expected. Her appearance almost delicate compared to the robust physiologies of most galactic species. But there was something in her movement, something in the way she carried herself, that spoke of controlled power. "Honored delegates," Reynolds began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, "I come to you with an offer of partnership." Zethkar leaned forward in his ceremonial chair, his hands trembling slightly. "Ambassador Reynolds, your fleet has just demonstrated military capabilities that threaten the very foundation of our civilization. How can you speak of partnership after such aggression?" Reynolds smiled, and several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. There was something predatory about that expression, something that triggered ancient instincts in creatures whose ancestors had once fled from things with too many teeth. "Ambassador Zethkar, my fleet has demonstrated restraint. Every ship in the hegemony battle group could have been destroyed within the first 30 seconds of engagement. Instead, we chose to disable them, allowing every crew member to return safely to their families. I call that a gift, not aggression." The holographic displays around the chamber lit up simultaneously, showing real-time feeds from across the galaxy. Human ships were visible near every major system, every important trade route, every strategic resource location. The scale of their deployment was staggering. As you can see, Reynolds continued, humanity is currently in position to cripple galactic civilization within hours if we choose to do so. We could destroy your communication networks, blockade your trade routes, and isolate every member world from every other. Your technology cannot detect our stealth vessels, your weapons cannot lock onto our ships, and your tactical doctrines are utterly inadequate to counter our operational methods. The chamber erupted in protests and demands, but Reynolds simply waited for the noise to die down before continuing. However, we have no interest in ruling over ruins or governing unwilling subjects. Humanity prefers cooperative relationships based on mutual benefit. We're prepared to offer the galaxy something it has never had: true security. Security from what? Demanded General Crixtos from the military gallery. We have maintained peace for 2 millennia. You have maintained stagnation, Reynolds corrected. Your peace exists because you've never faced a real threat. Beyond the borders of known space, there are civilizations that make your worst nightmares look like children's stories. We know because we've been fighting them for the past 50 years. This revelation sent a new wave of shock through the assembled delegates. The galaxy's understanding of human history was incomplete, focused mainly on their emergence as a spacefaring species. The idea that they had been engaged in large-scale warfare with unknown entities was terrifying. The Devourers, Reynolds continued, using a translation that made several species recoil in instinctive fear, are a machine intelligence that consumes entire star systems to fuel their expansion. They strip worlds bare of all organic matter and convert the raw materials into more of themselves. We've been holding the line against them for half a century, buying the galaxy time it didn't even know it needed. The displays changed again, showing combat footage that no galactic civilization had ever seen. Massive mechanical constructs battling human fleets among the burning wreckage of consumed worlds, ships dying in nuclear fire while others pressed forward with relentless determination. The Devourers will reach the galactic rim within 20 years, Reynolds announced. Your current military capabilities would last approximately 6 hours against their advanced scouts. Humanity offers to stand between you and extinction, but we require certain accommodations in return. Zethkar found his voice again, though it trembled with the weight of what he was hearing. What accommodations? Integration of our military command structure with your defense forces, adoption of human strategic doctrines across all galactic fleets, priority access to your industrial output for military production, and formal recognition of humanity's authority in all matters relating to external threats. The silence that followed was deafening. Every delegate understood they were witnessing the end of their old world and the birth of something new and uncertain. And if we refuse? Asked Ambassador Thiss, her bioluminescent patches flickering with distress. Reynolds's smile never wavered, but her eyes grew cold. Then you'll face the Devourers alone, with whatever military capabilities you currently possess. Humanity will withdraw beyond the galactic rim and wait to see if anyone survives to negotiate with later. You would abandon us to those monsters? We would respect your sovereign right to choose your own fate, Reynolds replied. Just as we hope you'll respect our right to choose ours. Humanity has been fighting this war longer than most of your species have been spacefaring. We're tired of carrying the burden alone. General Crixtos spoke up from the gallery, his voice heavy with the weight of military pragmatism. How long do we have to decide? The Council has 72 hours to reach a decision, Reynolds answered. After that, our fleet will begin redeployment to the outer barriers, and the galactic defense contracts will be considered void. As Reynolds turned to leave the chamber, Zethkar called out one final question. Ambassador, why reveal yourselves now? You could have continued your deception indefinitely. Reynolds paused at the airlock entrance, looking back at the assembled delegates with something that might have been pity. Because the Devourers have accelerated their timeline. Our forward scouts report massive mobilization in the dark zones. The war we've been fighting in secret is about to become everyone's problem. Humanity is offering you a chance to survive what's coming, but only if you're willing to accept that your age of innocence is over. The airlock sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the council to contemplate a future they had never imagined and choices they had never wanted to make. Outside the station's viewports, human ships continued their silent patrol, invisible guardians watching over a galaxy that had just learned it was no longer alone in the dark. Invisible ships moved into final position around their targets. The galaxy was about to learn that predators didn't fight honorable battles. They fought battles they could win, using every advantage their evolution had given them. The age of galactic peace was ending, and humanity was writing the rules of what came next.